Defense, I think what comes to mind, obviously Darius Slay's played terrific. He probably is the defensive MVP at this point. But I think Davion Taylor, to me, has been a big surprise off the top of my head. I know he's really struggled with injuries, and that's unfortunate. We saw the same thing with Jordan Hicks when he was here. Terrific player, but he couldn't stay healthy. He goes to Arizona. He's been healthy, and, he's the NFC Defensive Player of the Week last week. I mean, that's the kind of ability Hicks has. And I think Davion Taylor, to me, when he's been healthy, he just seems to have gotten better each week. And that, to me, is surprising. I think this defense is better with Davion Taylor playing, to be honest. And we'll see if he gets back this week or the week after. But Davion Taylor on defense. And then offensively, maybe my biggest surprise, I would probably say
it is a Football Friday here on Birds 365. Except for one thing, there's no football to be played here in Philadelphia this weekend. But that's all right. We're gutting through a bye week. Eagles hopefully enjoying the downtime and getting healthier during the bye week. But some things stay standard, one of which is Ed Kracz joins us on Fridays. Eddie K, we know John forgot to send you the reminder text last night. Did he send you the invitation to join us at Screwballs last night? Before he's forgot to send you the reminder text.
I'm not forcing Ed to drive and,
not forcing, asking, inviting.
Yeah. All right.
We don't force anybody to do anything. We don't force anybody to watch a show. We just do the show and say, hey, like us. Hop aboard, hit that like button. We're like Ed Kracz. That's why you should like Joe today. Look at that smiling face.
Fair point.
I did not get the invitation to Screwballs. I've been to Screwballs, though. My cousin actually is he's a guitarist and a pianist, and he's played there before, so I've gone to see him play there, and it's a nice little place. I mean, I have to say, if I would have known.
I feel bad. I'm not.
As well, you should, McMullen. You should ask him ahead of time.
It's always my fault.
It's right near the King of Prussia Mall. You know, there's some shopping still left to be done.
I didn't want to overreach, and I'm always wrong.
Here was the bad thing you'd appreciate, Ed, if you've been there when the acts are performing. John and I are there, and we set up the table, same place where they set up the mini stages if they have a musical act, and they turned the fancy lights on.
Yeah.
The shine coming off mine and John McMullen's dome was blinding to the poor people in the seats there. So we got those lights turned off quickly.
That's probably like a beacon within a 5-mile radius that would just draw a crowd right in.
It helps the late night planes land.
That's probably true. It could be seen all the way back to the Schuylkill. All right, Ed Kracz, what have you been doing on your bye week?
Just kind of, recharging, just like Nick Sirianni and his boys, just kind of recharging the old batteries, trying to get away, stepping away from the game a little bit. I saw some of the Thursday night game with the Steelers and the Vikings, and man, that Steelers made that close. And I know the Eagles probably would have preferred a Vikings loss. It didn't happen, but yeah, just kind of, laying low, taking it easy, doing a little coaching. I do a little wrestling coaching, and just getting on with my life, seeing my wife, reintroducing myself to my wife a little bit, my dog, taking him out for some nice long walks. But it's been very nice. I have to say, 13 weeks is a long time for and I can't imagine how the players felt about it. I mean, that's a long grind physically and mentally before you take a break. I know they had that 10-day off period after they played Tampa on the 14th of October before turning around and heading out to Vegas 10 days later. But, this was a very welcome bye, and now we hit the home stretch.
Yeah, somehow we get to the bye, and Jody and I have to work more. How did that work, Jody? But, Ed, I do want to talk about this team coming out of the bye because they're well-positioned. They really are. Even with that win, it would have been preferable, as you mentioned, for Pittsburgh to win for the Eagles. But overall, I think, Minnesota's kind of leaking oil. I think you can kind of put them off to the side and say to yourself, how do the Eagles get to that 7th spot in the NFC? And to me, it starts with the Washington football team. They play each other, the home and home series. That to me is going to tell the tale of the rest of this season as far as the playoffs go. How do you think the Eagles match up with the Washington football team? And do you think they're prepared with a young rookie coach, presumably going back to Jalen Hurts, a very young quarterback? We're going to learn a lot about this team in the final 4 games, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot already in the first 13 weeks here. And, John, you said you're always wrong, but I have to give you credit. You were right. I think you said back in the summer that we're going to see meaningful football in December, kind of like we've had for the last several years with this team. And here we are again, middle of December. And it does look like those 2 games with Washington kind of with 1 game between them. They come out of the bye, they play Washington at home, and then they have the Giants at home, which, by the way, is their first 2-game homestand of the season. They haven't played 2 home games in a row all year, which is sort of bizarre. And this is the only time they'll do it. But then they have the Giants after Washington, and then they go to Washington, on January 2nd to ring in the new year. And you're right. Those 2 games look like they will be for a playoff spot. And, who knows? I guess Dallas probably has that number 1. They're probably the champs. It's going to be tough to catch them. Washington plays them this weekend. That'll be an interesting watch on Sunday. I think that what we've seen from the Eagles so far in these 13 weeks is an offense and a defense that I think has really grown pretty well. You look at this offense; they're 10th in the league in scoring. They've played 6 games where they've scored over 30 points, and that's off of a season where they didn't do that a single time in Doug Peterson's last year. So, we've seen this offense, even though it missed Miles Sanders for 3 games, even though it lost Brandon Brooks and Isaac Seumalo on the offensive line early, even though they traded Zach Ertz from the tight end room, even though they've had to start Gardner Minshew for a game, this offense has still kind of purred along with 30-plus games, and they're 5-1 in those games. So, you reach 30 points as an offense, and you're going to win your share of games, and the Eagles have done that. So, I give Nick Sirianni and his offensive staff a lot of credit for, kind of growing this offense. And, I say growing, and we all made fun of Nick when he mentioned the flower growing, fertilizing water thing. And but it's true. This offense has really grown through the year. So I think it is well positioned to play a Washington team whose defense is a little unsettled. Montez Sweat looks like he'll be out for next week's game, I would guess. He was put on the COVID list. I'm not sure when he can come off of that. But, yeah, I think they're in good position to match up with Washington over the 2 of these next 3 games. And even their defense, talking about growing, I think their defense has done a nice job. And a lot of that you could say, well, they're playing kind of an inferior competition with the way the schedule has changed from how difficult it was at the beginning until the last month or so. But still, there have been some encouraging signs from Jonathan Gannon and from this unit that gives you confidence to think, yeah, we can match up with Washington. We can play toe-to-toe with the Washington football team on both sides of the ball.
And you left out one offensive hurdle that they have to continue to get over. They do continue to put Jalen Reagor out there on the field, and that is something they need to get over on a continuous basis as well. I'm going to – and, oh, by the way, last year they did play important football, meaningful football into December by default because the NFC least was the NFC least last year. So you got to put it in the proper perspective. Need you to look into the crystal ball a little bit. If you've got inside information, feel free to share. But I'm guessing you're going to have to just give us your interpretation and your belief. The head coach has said now for a couple weeks running, we'll have some Brandon Brooks information for you after the bye. It was supposed to be an 8-week injury, and then we got the 8th, and then we got the 10, and then we got the 12, and he continued to say, well, after the bye week, we'll know. What's the chance next Monday, or do you guys know when your first availability is with the
Wednesday? Wednesday.
Not till Wednesday? All right, next Wednesday. that Coach Sirianni steps up and has a full-blown Brandon Brooks update for you guys? Or do you think there's a chance he's going to say, well, we didn't have the players all week, so we're going to have to take a look at Brandon and take some time, evaluate it, and we're going to get more of a stall as to when or if Brandon Brooks is going to return for the Eagles?
Yeah, he's kind of kept us on the edge of our seats with that information, kind of stringing us along here for the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I'll have you information for that after, next week. And now it's after the bye. So, yeah, I think Nick has taken us pretty far down this path here. So I expect he's going to have information for us on Wednesday. And it's been kind of interesting because if you look at, Brandon Brooks's ability to heal quickly, we saw him come back after his first Achilles tear very quickly. After, I think, 8 months, he was back in the lineup. And then he was probably going to play had the Eagles made the playoffs last year coming off of that injury. So it's kind of bizarre, I think, that here we are. He had a pec strain, I guess it was, or a pec tear.
Yeah. Pec strain is what they said.
Yeah, I don't know if he needed surgery or not. I mean, maybe we'll get information that he actually did have surgery, but I would think that would be known at this point. But it's kind of odd that he hasn't come back already. I mean, we thought this was maybe an 8-week injury, and it's been, I guess, about 10 or 11 now at this point. So it's strange that he's not back. I expect we'll know more, but what are we going to hear? Are we going to hear that he's done for the year, or are we going to hear that he's coming back? Listen, I think the Eagles could certainly use him to come back. I mean, you're starting now Nate Herbig at the right guard spot. So I think you'd much rather have Brandon Brooks in that position. So I think we're going to hear he's coming back on Wednesday. I really do. I think that he's going to return for this stretch run. That's just my hunch that we're going to get news on him, and he's going to be back in the lineup against Washington next week.
Wow. All right. That would be a huge positive, obviously, because Jack Driscoll went down. Now you have the other issues, and now you start talking about Jason Kelsey, and he's banged up, and what do you do there if he's not able to go at certain times, which seems silly because Jason Kelsey always goes. But you brought up a good point with Brandon that I haven't brought up in the past. The guy was always known as a quick healer, a fast rehab guy. He'd get back. We're like, well, he's not going to start the season coming off a torn Achilles in the playoffs. He starts the season. He has his best year. He does it again. He's back. He's ready to go at the end of last season. As you mentioned, he was practicing and he was ready to play for the playoffs that the miracle came. It was pretty astonishing because he tore it, I think, in June. And this time it's a pec strain. And you kind of do the math. If it's a pec tear, he's out for the season, right? He's not going to come back. So if it's a pec strain, it should be much earlier. And then you add in the second part, Ed. Nick Sirianni's been much more above board about injuries than Doug Peterson was. Like, Doug used to give us the step. Nick's been pretty honest when it comes to injuries, except for Brandon Brooks. So that leads me down a different path. He's probably not going to be here next year because of the contract, because of Landon Dickerson, because of how well he's playing. Remember, Isaac Seumalo is going to be back, so you have him. We don't know if Jason Kelsey is going to play. He's year to year at this point. But, maybe it has more to do with the health problem, or is that too conspiracy theory driven for you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, unless something happened during the rehab that really caused him, maybe he tore it during a rehab or something. But again, we haven't gotten any indications of any of that. And I think that you're probably right. This is Brandon Brooks's last year. And I think kind of like what we saw with Alshon Jeffrey last year, when he was ready to come back, he came back. I think the Eagles wanted to get their money's worth out of Alshon Jeffrey before sending him away into, we haven't heard from Alshon Jeffrey either all year. So I think they're going to want to try to get Brooks back out there just based on that contract. And listen, this isn't an easy contract for them to get out from under.
Yeah, it isn't.
But unless you trade him, I mean, to cut him, you're still going to have to eat a lot of dead money. Certainly not in the dead money range of Carson Wentz, that 30+ million that they had to absorb. But I think Brooks is around 15 million if you were to just cut him. So you're going to have to try to trade him. And, what value is he going to have if he's coming off of an injury? Didn't play but 2 games or a game and a half before he got hurt this year. So I think you're going to want to get him out there. And the reason for Nick kind of hemming and hawing on this whole situation is, it is curious because you're right, John. He has been pretty forward and upfront with injury information to us all season long, which is kind of interesting that he hasn't been as forthcoming with the Brandon Brooks stuff. But I just feel like, they want to get him back out there. They want to showcase him a little bit because they're going to try to get rid of him, or I shouldn't say get rid of him. They're going to try to move him in the off season. And the best way to do that is to show that he came back healthy and was able to finish this season.
All right, Ed, I've asked this of all of our guests this week, leading into the bye. The Eagles are coming home for this game against Washington. I'd rather have, knowing that you're going to play them twice, I'd rather have the home game first and then be able to go get one on the road. That goes completely out the window if you lose the game. Then you're in a hole if you lose the game and then you got to go to their place 2 weeks later. But the Eagles are 1-4 at home this year. I've asked whoever we've had on the reason why. I'm interested to see what you say, see if it's the same as basically everybody else. 1-4, no home field advantage at the link for the Eagles. What does that mean to you?
Well, we've asked Nick this question repeatedly, like, what do you do at home that, you need to change up? And he just says he thinks it's a coincidence. I myself think it's, a young team trying to go out there and maybe do a little bit too much and try to impress the home crowd. And sometimes when you try to do too much, then you stop doing your job, you start doing other people's jobs, and then it snowballs. The next thing you know, you're trailing and the fans are booing you. I think they've gotten booed at halftime in, 3 or 4 of these home games. Now they came out and played a nice game against the Saints, maybe a little momentum, that you can build on now. Certainly you're going to have to figure out how to win at home. And maybe they did that against New Orleans. Maybe they decided, look, enough is enough. This is our home turf. We need to defend it. Let's just play within ourselves. Let the game come to us. Take what's there. Not try to do too much. And that way we'll have some success. And I think they did that against New Orleans. And I do like the fact, even though they haven't played well at home, I do like the fact that 3 of these 4 are at home. It's tough to go 1-7 at home in the NFL. So I think, your chances of winning at least 2 of these home games, I think, is very, very good.
I'm going to give them the win over the Giants right now. I'm going to give it to them at Kracz. There's no way they're getting swept by the New York Giants. So that's one right there. But okay. I am going to hijack, as I've done all week, the famous Jody Mack hypothetical, which I think is his best hypothetical question of the season. However, still time. You can still improve on it. So that's for you, Jody. A little coaching and trying to get you motivated. But this is a tremendous, tremendous hypothetical question because I'm surprised that the Eagles fans have been so disciplined with the quarterback controversy. There is no controversy. There is no Minshew mania. It didn't happen. And now some of it is the opponent and the Jets and all that. But the guy was tremendous, especially in the first half. So Nick Sirianni says we're going back to Jalen Hurts. Everybody agrees with him. Everybody's copacetic. Everything's copacetic. However, if they go into the Washington game and they play a stinker of a first half with Jalen Hurts, and say they have 35 yards passing, 50 yards passing, but they're still in the football game. They're down 10-3, 9-3. They have a chance. What do they do at halftime? Do they look to Gardner Minshew to win the football game? Is the window for potential controversy shut?
They stay with Jalen Hurts. If that's the scenario and they go in at halftime and it's 10-0 or 13-3 and Jalen's got 40 yards passing and, he's 3 for 9, I think they stay with Jalen Hurts. I really do. I don't think they're going to bring a quarterback controversy in at halftime. Now, listen, could they come into the week and try to revisit it then if Jalen struggles in the second half and they lose, 21-6 or whatever it is? I could potentially see that being discussed during the week. And that's when you'll have a full-blown controversy. I mean, right now, yeah, okay, it was nice. Gardner Minshew was fun, great story, really cool dude. Completely different personality than Jalen Hurts in the post-game and in the pre-game stuff when we talked to him. But, there's no controversy. I think Reed Sinnett could have beaten the New York Jets, to be honest. No offense, Jody.
Reed Sinnett.
Now that's the biggest cutting blow. That's the biggest cutting blow I've had to take all week. And I've taken a bunch of them, and I've taken them because I deserve to take it. Reed Sinnett.
I know you can take it, Jody. That's the only reason I say it, because I know you got the thick skin. But listen, I just think that Jets defense is not very good, and it did not play very good. When they let the Eagles offense score 7 straight possessions, score points, I mean, that's pretty bad. I'm not sure Reed Sinnett would have done that, but I think he would have been successful and they would have won anyway. As good of a story and as fun as it was to get to know Gardner Minshew a little bit up close rather than from afar when he was in Jacksonville and the whole Minshew Mania thing, it was fun. It was a nice story, but I think the Eagles are going to see what Jalen Hurts can do, see if he can play in the crucible of what really is kind of a playoff race at this point. And they're going to see what they have in Jalen Hurts mentally as a quarterback that can lead the team to big wins on a consistent basis down the home stretch here. So, again, I think if they're losing at halftime, they're sticking with Jalen Hurts. Now, if it's a complete abomination and he really, really stinks the place up against Washington, then maybe that's when we'll have the controversy. And that's when teams or fans, I think, will start to clamor a little bit more for Gardner Minshew in the light of Jalen's struggles against Washington, the hypothetical struggles.
The hypothetical.
But I don't see it. I think Hurts is the better quarterback, and I think he'll have a fine game on Sunday that we won't need to even revisit this.
All right, Eddie and John, I want you both to react to this. This is where I'm worried about the game some 9 days down the road, when the Washington football game comes to town. I'm going to run down for you the top 10 rushers in the National Football League this year, okay? Jonathan Taylor, Eagles didn't play the Colts. Joe Mixon, Eagles didn't play the Bengals. Dalvin Cook, he jumped up to number 3 last night with his 200 yards. Yeah. Eagles didn't play the Vikings. Derrick Henry, he's been out for about 2 months, and he's still number 4 in the NFL. Eagles didn't play the Titans. Najee Harris, extra game for him because he played last night. Eagles haven't played the Steelers. Nick Chubb of the Browns, Eagles didn't play them just yet. At number 6. Number 8 is Ezekiel Elliott. Eagles played the Cowboys. How'd that one go?
Did not go well.
Not well at all.
Okay. Number 9 is Lamar Jackson. And the Eagles haven't played the Ravens. And number 10 is Elijah Mitchell of the 49ers. That was a home game. That was a home win, right? Oh, no. They lost that game. So they played 2 teams with a top 10 rusher in the NFL, and they're 0-2. Guess who's number 7 in the NFL right now?
Oh, geez. Let's see. It's not Barkley. Antonio Gibson?
Antonio Gibson is the 7th leading rusher in the NFL, and he's coming to town this week or next week. Any worries?
Yeah. I think this defense has played pretty well against the run. I mean, I know Barkley isn't the same Barkley we saw early in his career, the knee injury that he's coming back from, but they did a good job. I think they held the Giants to 70 yards rushing. The Jets certainly with Tevin Coleman, they came in with a 157-yard game against the Texans, albeit, but I think they held the Jets to about 70 yards rushing. So, those are encouraging signs that they have kind of found a way to stop the run and do a better job against the run. Now, Gibson, I love Antonio Gibson. I loved when, he came into the NFL. I think he came from Memphis, if I'm not mistaken.
Kenny Gainwell. Patriots.
He was kind of one of those guys that nobody kind of knew what he was going to be, whether he was going to be a running back or a receiver, because he had that skill set, but he's settled in nicely at running back, and he is a threat, I think, out of the backfield. So him and Terry McLaurin, I think, are 2 really big pieces of that Washington offense. Now, their tight end, Logan Thomas, I think, has been put on injured reserve. so he's not going to play. That's very beneficial for the Eagles because tight ends have just killed this team more so than the running game. They've given up 10 touchdowns, I think it is, to tight ends this season, guys we've never even heard of. And, I know the Jets tight end scored one against them too, whose name I can't remember. Jody, maybe you know who that was. It was, I don't remember. Robert Griffin, maybe. Was that his name?
Griffin, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, listen, these tight ends have hurt the Eagles more so, I think, than the running game. So, no, Jody, I'm not really concerned about Antonio Gibson.
When Antonio Gibson puts up 115 and you're on with us next Friday, okay, just remember where you heard it first, Ed. We're concerned from the MAC corner over here.
It certainly has a lot of veracity, but, maybe Sanders puts up $115 as well. And, it's a push in the run game. And then who's the better quarterback? Taylor Heineke or Jalen Hurts?
That's a good question. That's one.
I'm going Hurts.
All right.
Yeah.
I want to further this discussion with the defense, though, Ed, because if I told you before the season we would get to this week 13, this late bye, after 13 games, number 11 defense overall. Jody just brought up the run game. They're 13th, I think, in the run. Top half when it comes to giving up points. Top half, obviously, in the passing game. You would have been happy, most likely. Where's the disconnect with Eagles fans when they say this defense? Is it just the way they play, a lack of aggressiveness? 11's pretty good in the 32-team league. You saw last night, 29-0 lead. Here comes Pittsburgh. They got a chance to tie the game on the last play. They would have needed a 2-point conversion. Point is, you can score some points and get some yardage in this league. Eagles have been better than most contextually. Why the disconnect?
I just think there's been some early scarring with fans in this defense, when you see what some of the quarterbacks have done against them. And when you see two teams, I think this year who didn't have to punt against the Eagles, I think that's a lot of scars for Eagle fans to kind of move past and to kind of have total confidence that, this is the defense now that we're going to see the rest of the year, because it's hard to get past the fact that 5 quarterbacks have completed 80%. They've given up, that Chiefs game to me, when the Chiefs score on 9 of 10 or not 9, it's 7 of 8 drives, I think it was. And the one was an interception from a linebacker who's not here anymore, Eric Wilson. Those are tough games to kind of, move past, in my opinion, anyway. So maybe that's the disconnect. And even when they were playing the Jets, and I kind of tweeted out there, New York has scored on all 3 of its possessions, and you're getting comments like, "Oh, this looks like the same defense from last month," and fans just haven't moved on. Like that, they were, people were saying, "Well, it looks like we won't have to get to know the Jets punter's name. It looks like one of those games, this and that." So, that's kind of how I feel, is that it's a fan base that was scarred from earlier defensive performances, and it's hard to go 100% that, now this is the defense we're going to see the rest of the year. That's my take on it. I just think it's been hard to watch early, and now, we're just waiting for this house of cards to collapse, and I'm not sure it will. I'm not really sold on these offenses that they have left, other than the Cowboys, obviously, in the Week 18 matchup, but certainly Washington and New York, these offenses don't throw a lot of scare into me for the defense.
All right, Ed, I asked you the question, and last one for me, earlier, about the Eagles being 1-4 at home, and why is that? Most people have said quality of opponent, that you put the Chiefs and the Bucks, the Chargers and the 49ers out there, and guess what? Those are very good. 2 of them are very good, and 2 of them are playoff teams as of right now. Saints going backwards outside the playoffs. They find a way to win. So the quality of opponent dictates the Eagles' outcome. Most fans don't like to think that way. They want to believe that their team dictates everything, that everything is based on their home squad, and that's the view you have to have of it. Smart people realize there's 2 teams on the field, so you have to give just as much credence to the other team you're playing. So I agree with their stance. That's why the Eagles are 1-4. They got the Redskins this week, who are basically in the same exact position the Eagles are. So no better, no worse. That's a good game. You go and win it. It's your thing. You got the hometown fans behind you. But here's something else the Eagles have this week. A little pressure. Yeah, they've been, I think, under pressure all year, or less pressure than you would think, because new coach, the owner said before the season started, transition year, not great expectations. There hasn't been a lot of pressure on the Eagles this week. Now this is a rivalry game, divisional game, in your house. When you move into the playoffs, there's some pressure involved. How is year one Nick Sirianni, Philadelphia Eagles, going to play under the most pressure they've been all year?
Listen, they have good veterans on this team too. Guys that have won Super Bowls, a Super Bowl now, not as many, obviously. You know, that's a dwindling number that was on this team in 2017. But you know, they still have, you know, some good veterans, especially on that line with Jason Kelce. And it looks like he's going to be okay based on what Nick Sirianni said earlier in the week, that that injury he suffered against the Jets, he came back from it during the game, but he seems like they got good news on that front. But, you know, when you have veterans like Kelce and Lane Johnson, you know, that's invaluable to me, in my opinion. And I think that helps. And then on defense, you know, Fletcher Cox, say what you want about Fletcher Cox. He's been around, and, you know, he does seem to take an interest in the younger players and kind of helping them develop. And Darius Slay, you know, kind of a veteran who really hasn't been through too many playoff crucibles, right? Playing with the Lions. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds. But, you know, I think Nick Sirianni has this team with the right mindset. You know, it's a growth oriented mindset. Again, here we go with the growth and the flowering and this stuff. But I just think it's a growth mindset for this team. And I think I like the approach that he's taken. And yeah, we'll see what they're made of under pressure. And that's where I think Jalen Hurts comes in, is will he handle this pressure? Now, he's played in some big games too, while at Alabama and Oklahoma. You know, can he translate, you know, that mindset into the NFL? It's going to be interesting. It's a good question. You know, I think that they've handled it well thus far. It's going to be a lot of pressure. It's going to be really interesting to see how Washington does against Dallas this weekend, because I think an NFL schedule, there's a lot of ebbs and flows. So we'll see how Washington does against Dallas. If they come out and win, you know, they're going to be pretty fired up. But listen, maybe they'll be a little full of themselves and they'll come in here overconfident, and maybe Eagles can sting them. If the Washington loses to Dallas, they're going to come in here a little bit more motivated, maybe. And that won't help the Eagles' cause. But I think the Eagles, if they just play like they've been playing and keep growing, I think that they'll be okay in this playoff crucible.
All right, I'm going to sneak one more in, Ed, mainly to say si.com/NFL/Eagles, eaglemaven.com. Read Ed Kracz. Nobody does a better job covering the Eagles. You can also read me there if you want, but mainly Ed. And I want to this is a good demarcation line for the season, as it always is, a bye week, especially this late. Who's your biggest surprise? Who's your most pleasant surprise on both sides of the football for this team?
You know, defense, I think what comes to mind, you know, obviously Darius Slay's played terrific. He probably is the defensive MVP at this point. But I think Davion Taylor, to me, has been a big surprise off the top of my head. I know he's really struggled with injuries, and that's unfortunate. We saw the same thing with Jordan Hicks when he was here, terrific player, but he couldn't stay healthy. He goes to Arizona. He's been healthy, and, you know, he's the NFC Defensive Player of the Week last week. I mean, that's the kind of ability Hicks has. And I think Davion Taylor, to me, when he's been healthy, he's just seems to have gotten better each week. And that, to me, is surprising. I think this defense is better with Davion Taylor playing, to be honest. And we'll see if he gets back this week or the week after. But Davion Taylor on defense. And then offensively, maybe my biggest surprise, I would probably say Landon Dickerson, maybe, or Jalen Hurts, one of those rookies. I mean, Dickerson's really stepped in, and he hasn't played perfect, you know, pass game or pass blocking. You know, he needs to get better there. But, man, run blocking, him and Milata, that, 700 plus pounds on that left side. I mean, that's where Kenny Gainwell's 18-yard touchdown run against the Jets was right between those two guys. And that's a lot of heft up front. And you look at those two guys when they break the huddle and they take the line, they're huge. So I'm going to say Landon Dickerson, kind of the ability to stay healthy even. I mean, remember all the angst about drafting him with the injuries and this and that. He's been able to stay healthy, and he's played just fine. I mean, if they didn't have him stepping in for Siamalu, I'm not sure this Eagles offensive line is as good as it is. So I'll go Landon Dickerson on the offense.
I like them both. Ed Kracz, if we are called upon to go back out to screwballs.
Yeah, now I know. You're a screwballs regular.
I will text you. I will not leave it up to my partner.
Don't leave it up to me.
I will text you to invite you out to join us at Screwballs if you'd be so kind.
I would, like I said, I enjoyed it. Nice little bar there, kind of tucked in the development, residential area. Sure, I'm on board, Jody.
We got you, bud. Always a pleasure, Eddie. Thanks,
guys.
Thanks, Ed Kracz, Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, I always do the wrong thing, Jody. I'm trying to be nice.
You're too friggin' busy. You got too many assignments. You write for 147 outlets, and you're always thinking about your next column, and you forget your buddies like Ed Kracz, who stands there and does your silly videos with you. How can you forget him? He's tied at your hip, and you blow him off.
By the way, I love that description because that's what they are, silly videos. I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
They're actually good.
I don't. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
I pay attention because I learn something every time that you do it. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, we are the Mac and Mac guys. We'll come back. I got a couple more Eagle things to run by my partner here. And then hour two, got one of our favorite guests, Randy Mueller, former NFL executive, will hop aboard. I want to get Randy's take on what do you do when you're the GM at this stage? You got guys moving up from the practice squad. Yeah, you keep your eye on the waiver wire. I'm guessing it's more frustrating than anything else because the coaches are deciding stuff week in and week out. And you're just sitting there watching the roster that you put together and knowing there isn't a lot you can do to change it. Or is it actually something that they enjoy? Because they can just work in conjunction with the coaching staff. Well, fun spot. Randy Mueller, ex-NFL executive, is going to join us in hour number two. We'll come back, finish up hour number one here on Birds 365.